Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Bell to Bell, this time without Bobby Blaze. He is on special assignment. I am your host, Professor Jeremy Vilmer, and joining us now, Shawn Sparks. What's happening, Shawn?
How's it going there, Professor?
It's going okay. It's going okay. Bobby is actually taking some students over to a WWE show tonight.
Excellent. Heard you guys talking about that on the last episode. Glad that worked out for them.
Yeah, so I hope they're having a great time over there and, all that. Shawn, so let's give people your credentials real quick here. You are a longtime listener of the show, probably one of our first listeners, but you are also a podcast host and wrestling aficionado, especially when it comes to your regionality. Give us a quick background.
Okay, well, I live in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. And I, along with Half Pint Moreland Mealer, host the NWA Cast on the Booking the Territory network. We are available on the Patreon feed, which you can sign up for at patreon.com/bookingtheterritory. And over the course of BTT's existence, Mike and I, Mike Mills, the host, kind of got to be friends, and he had me on to do a couple of live streams and such. And when he decided he wanted to go ahead and do an NWA show, he came to me and I said, sure, I'll do it. And so I recruited Half Pint, and now we do a show. We don't have a regular schedule. We basically do an episode when we feel like we have enough to talk about.
Sure.
It ends up running about one per month or so. Usually we'll hit the drop one prior to and after a pay-per-view, but if we have breaking news or something, we'll do a little pop-up episode. And so, yeah, I'm one of the founding members of the JV Goon Squad at Booking the Territory.
Oh, fantastic. All right. Well, that's a good thing, because I do want to talk about the NWA today, so we got the right guest host.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate you having me on.
Well, thank you for doing it. Yeah, I appreciate when you guys can fill in or, come on. Bobby thought we were going to try to do the rest of the British episode. I'm like, no, you're not getting out of that one. That was your idea. You're coming back for that.
Yeah, I was hoping I wasn't going to be doing the second half of that, because British wrestling's not my wheelhouse by any means.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I know some of the big names, and I know the guys who came to America. Outside of that,
the guy who I was most familiar with was your number 10. So I'm like, yeah,
yeah,
I'm not going to be any good for you after that.
Well, real quick here, this is so weird to do on a wrestling show, but we have to break some bad news about a non-wrestler. Yeah, I know. Yes. This sucks. This pisses me off. I woke up Friday morning to the story that Meat Loaf had passed away. And I was almost quite literally crushed by this news.
My wife found out before I did, and she didn't want to be the one to tell me.
Oh, yeah. that sucks. My parents hid Elvis Presley and Bruce Lee's death from me until I was like 10.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I get how. Well, there wasn't an internet back then. You could do that kind of stuff,
Right.
Yeah, so, I'm a big fan. I have had Bat Out of Hell, the original album, in just about every media format you can assume. My parents had it on 8-track when I was a kid, so I had it on 8-track at one point. I've had it on vinyl. I've had it a couple of times on cassette, a couple of times on CD, and obviously now digitally. Right. But, what's funny is I don't really care that much about, Bat Out of Hell 2.
Really?
Yeah. It's a good album. It's fine. Jim Steinman still wrote it. But I just don't feel like it matches. I don't know. There's something about that first album that I feel is hard to get close to.
Well, the thing about it, Bat Out of Hell was written kind of and assembled as a concept story album. Mm-hmm. Whereas Bat Out of the Hell 2 had some stuff that they were planning on putting on albums earlier, when they said, okay, we'll do a sequel. But then there was a lot of other stuff that was written kind of here and there, kind of more scattered about.
Sure.
So it ended up kind of being more of a compilation of a lot of different things that Steinman had done in the meantime.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bat Out of Hell 2 was actually somewhat my introduction to Meat Loaf. My first experience with Meat Loaf is I was in high school. I'm hanging out at my buddy's house. He lived down the street from me. And his dad was a musician. He had a nice little studio in a shed in his backyard and everything. And one afternoon we were hanging out. We decided we're going to go through his dad's record collection and make us a little mixtape just to play while we're hanging out playing basketball in the backyard, whatever. And we come across, I think it was either Paradise by the Dashboard Light or it may have been 2 Out of 3 Ain't Bad. I forget. But it was on a 45 on vinyl. And we see this cat's name on here is Meat Loaf. Like, this guy's name is Meat Loaf. This is the coolest fucking thing we've ever seen. But I think that was kind of the end of it. I don't even know if we played the record or not. But then when Bat Out of the Hell 2 came out, I'm in college, and I still remember the first time I saw the video and heard the song Anything for Love. Mm-hmm. It's middle of the night. Me and my roommate are both doing an all-nighter. I can't remember if it was like finals week or what, but either way, we're both up real late doing schoolwork, and this video comes on, and they're like, oh my. It's like, this is so different and weird and glorious.
Yeah. Well, see, Jim Steinman, he would do this thing and be like, hey, if Wagner had access to electric guitars, what would he have written?
Right. I mean, just everything was so epic. And I think it was so different from everything else. Because, I mean, it's early 90s. Mm-hmm. You know, it's grudge. You got hair metal on its last legs. You got hip hop. And then, boom, this thing comes onto the scene. And like I said, it was just so different and so weird and so glorious. It was like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing in the world. And me being the geek that I am about everything, you know, I buy the album and I'm getting into it and I'm reading about it and going back and catching up, and I find out about Bat Out of Hell 1 and we get that. And I mean, just from there on out, I'm this huge Meat Loaf fan. Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard the live version of Bat Out of Hell done with the Australian orchestra?
No.
Oh my God, it's awesome. You got to look into that.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. That would be
yeah,
cool.
They performed the entire album live with a full orchestra backing.
Oh, that must be over the top.
Oh yeah.
That's wild. I did see back in the early 2000s, before American Idol quite jumped the shark, he performed with that Catherine McPhee. And that was actually pretty good. What was the song? It's All Coming Back to Me Now.
Yeah.
And that was actually really good. But what was one of the funniest things that I had ever experienced with somebody who had met Meat Loaf, there was an actress I had interviewed once for Geekish Cast. Mm-hmm. And she had been in like a Lifetime movie or something or some series or something where Meat Loaf was the villain. Mm-hmm. And when we were talking, it came out that Meat Loaf weighed about 190 pounds when they did it. And I was like, so he's like, a vegetarian Meat Loaf now? Because, the last couple decades there, he like dropped a whole bunch of weight.
Right.
And yeah.
Right. So, and I cannot remember the name of that program or movie that you're talking about, but I distinctly remember him playing a villain role in something. So I'm in the ballpark of what you're talking about, but I just can't remember the specifics.
Yeah, he's actually played a villain in a few things. He was in one stupid like Yeti or Bigfoot movie, like little kid movie.
Oh wow.
What I always thought was amazing about him was, it's like, hey, Meat Loaf, do you want to do this project? You know what, guys, I'm going to go do this gay musical movie with Tim Curry. No, you do whatever you're doing over there. I'll be back later. I always thought like his choice of stuff he did was just like avant-garde and cool and over the top. And of course, as you learn more about guys like him and Jim Steinman, the more those oddball choices like seem to make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And I will die on this musical hill. The best version of All Coming Back to Me Now is the original one by Pandora's Box on the original Sin album.
I'm going to have to go back and listen to it because I don't know when the last time I would have heard it was.
Yeah, basically, Jim Steinman had all this music that he wanted to make an album out of. And for whatever, I don't know if I want to say Meat Loaf was supposed to be the one who was going to record it. But they just couldn't get together.
There was a number of things they were supposed to record, and Meat Loaf suddenly couldn't sing anymore.
Yeah, and it might have been during that period. So Steinman just throws together this group real quick to perform his songs. And the name of it was Pandora's Box was the name of the group, and the album was Original Sin. And there's actually 1 or 2 songs on that ended up on Bat Out of Hell too.
I'm going to have to check that out.
But the version of All Coming Back to Me Now on that album is the best one out of the many that I've heard. Because, of course, Celine Dion did the version back in the late 90s, and then Meat Loaf did it again on a later album. I think it was Bat 3, actually, that he did it.
Oh, I'd be interested in that because I was under the impression that no Jim Steinman songs were on Bat Out of Hell 3.
There's 1 or 2.
Okay.
I don't think he was involved in the production, but I'm pretty sure there's at least a couple of songs of his that were on there.
Yeah. That's kind of wild. So yeah, we lose Meat Loaf. What are we, a year? Yeah, a year since Jim Steinman passed away or thereabouts.
Yeah, I don't even think it was a year.
Yeah, I don't think it was quite a year. But, you know, that ruins like a whole chunk of my childhood right there, you know. And once Alice Cooper dies, I'll just be like completely cut off from my entire past.
Yeah, I mean, that's it was hit me. I was scrolling through the streaming channels a couple of nights ago, and Night Court is now on IMDb TV.
Really?
Yes. That was wonderful to see. I mean, a huge Night Court fan, as you know. But it's like this show that I used to watch and I love so much. It's like 3/4 of the cast is now passed away.
Yeah.
You know, I've reached that stage of life.
Yeah.
You know?
And Night Court's not that old of a show. I mean, you know, when you look at like the fact that William Shatner's 115 and still going to outer space.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of people died. Well, fairly young. I guess, you know, Marky Post was 72 or 3 when she passed away. So maybe not as young as I'm thinking, but yeah, it sure seems like a lot of them passed away awfully early.
Yeah, you realize, oh, that person can't be that old. And you realize, oh, wait, well, no, it's the fact that I'm that old.
Well, I was going to say, you know, 50 is so much younger now than it used to be.
Right.
You know,
that's true.
Very Thank much goodness. So. Well, let's do this real quick, guys. I'm going to do a bad job of pitching Bobby's books here, but if you have not bought them or you know a wrestling fan who does not have them, go over to tinyurl.com/blazebook1 for Pin Me Pay Me, or go over to tinyurl.com/blazebook2 for I Kicked Out on 2, the education of a wrestler. Bobby has a lot of great stories from the time in his life when he was getting into and running around as a pro wrestler. These books have a lot of the stories, definitely worth checking out. And the show gets a little bit of a kickback when you buy them, but I'm talking like 12 cents a book. So, you know, buy multiple copies, I guess is what I'm getting at.
There you go.
Yeah.
And yeah, of course, I've read both of these books and they're both excellent. Pin Me, Pay Me is kind of more of the Bobby Blaze story.
Yeah.
It's kind of the autobiography that leads you through the steps of that brought him where he was in his career, whereas I Kicked Out on 2 is more just anecdotal stories on the road. And they're both really good. So, I mean, if you're a person who is into wrestling books, you can't go wrong with either one of those.
No, you really can't. He's a fun storyteller. Yeah, and that's how he and I got to be friends. You know, it's like I interviewed him once. I was like, that guy's a lot of fun. And we ended up talking on the phone like 3 weeks later for like 2 hours. But yeah, he's a great guy to talk to. And he writes kind of like he speaks.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And that was something I was going to get into. You know, as a writer, that is one of Bobby's biggest strengths, is just he's so conversational in his writing, and it just flows so well. And I tell people all the time, even if you're not a wrestling fan, which of course if you're listening to this podcast you are, but if you have somebody you know who likes books and they're still not a wrestling fan, Pin Me, Pay Me is so full of just life advice. Because when you look at the things Bobby did to get to where he was, from being a wrestling fan, you know, as a school child.
Yeah, he jumped through a lot of hoops.
And then he ends up, you know, on some of the biggest stages out there, traveling the world, doing what he loved. You look at the things he did right along the way, and it's a very good template to get to where you want to get in any given profession.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a nice way of summarizing that. Actually, I appreciate you you doing that. That was quite succinct. I came across a story that I thought was kind of interesting. I don't know if you've heard that the current ROH interim champion is going to be starting his own promotion.
Did not.
Oh, well, they're calling it Terminus Wrestling, and it's actually, if you get a chance, go Google the rules they're going to use, because it's very much like the ROH Pure rules, like basically fuck around, you get thrown out kind of stuff, you know. But they're not going to be signing talent. They're going to use people who are under contract elsewhere who can come in. And I think NWA is doing a bit of that now, and I've been hopeful to see more people open up and go non-contract, because I think it's really cool when you see guys show up on other shows with titles from different organizations. What are your feelings on that? Oh,
absolutely. I mean, I think you're going to see a lot more of that just overall in the wrestling business, because, you know, people sign with these major companies, obviously for the paycheck. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, you're in this contract for X number of years. And if things change and you're no longer happy there, now you're stuck in this contract.
Oh, yeah.
And you write it out, you cash your checks, or you ask for your release or whatever. But there's enough going on now in the wrestling universe that it's almost like guys can go back to the way it was 20 years ago, when you just go to a territory, make your money. When you kind of run out of things to do, you go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I think with all the different companies that are out there now, it's almost getting to the point, if it hasn't already, that people can go back to doing that.
You know,
and you can basically just pick your spots and still make a living. And it's great.
John Morrison, he'd figured out a way to make a living when not working for the WWE, when they were basically the only game in town for 20-something years. Right. Cody Rhodes kind of did the same thing for a little while there. And, you know, guys like the Young Bucks, they had figured out, I mean, there was a lot of Japan and other stuff, but I mean, still, they'd figured out how to make money and not work for Vince McMahon. Which I think might be good, because I don't think he's going to be in the wrestling business much longer. But,
right. Yeah. I think it's pretty obvious that they're going to be looking to sell sooner rather than later.
Right. If you've been through an acquisition in a company, this is what they look like.
Right.
Yeah. You know, you kind of square your tables up, and you cut off all the dead weight you can. You become as profitable looking as you can possibly look. And then one day you come in and tell your employees that, oh, hey, we got bought by somebody. I'll see you all around.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I am of the belief, and Half Pint and I actually talked about this in our last show. I think NXT is going to be out of existence before too long. I mean, you look at the way they've been cleaning house in there. It almost looks like they're running a skeleton crew just to ride out the rest of their media contract obligations, and as soon as they can, they're just going to go ahead and axe it. And when you look at the stories out there of how much money they've spent on it versus how much it has made, it's a pretty wise financial move if you're looking to sell.
You know, yeah. I mean, besides the Steiner kid, there's a lot of talent there. I'm not saying they're not, but who's a possible big star that they're running anything with over there right now? And they've always mishandled NXT, or the talent side of NXT. They've always horribly mishandled it. And then my other thing is, doesn't it feel like there's a de-hunterization of NXT going on? Like all your hires are gone, buddy. Everybody you wanted in here, shit canned.
Yeah. Now the question there is that happenstance, or is that by design? And if it is by design, who's the one behind it?
Right.
Because Half Pint has a theory that all of Hunter's guys are being cleared out because Hunter is planning on taking the money and running as soon as they sell, and then he's going to start his own promotion. And since all of his guys have been released, he can bring the band back together and just have his own promotion with his guys and run it his way.
Yeah, but I mean, don't you think we're going to see William Regal get contacted by AEW? And there's a lot of those guys, they're not going to just leave hanging out there.
Of course.
If somebody doesn't snap William Regal up like right away, somebody's fucking up, sleeping on the job.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. But if he is in on it, then he knows exactly if he's going to sign on with somebody. Okay, what are my terms going to be? Where's my exit?
Yeah. Well, if that was the case, there's an argument to be made that you could approach Sinclair Media and say, hey, I understand you guys aren't doing so well. I would like to take either the controlling percentage of or some giant chunk of ROH off your hands.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then he'll have what he was shooting for in the first place, because NXT was basically his ROH.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to something else that you said earlier.
Yeah.
With these guys being essentially, free agents, hopping from company to company. When you said you see guys showing up with other titles from other places and how cool that is. And I completely agree with that. And in the brief run of TNA, when it became Global Force for those handful of months, if that it was, and when you had Jerry Jarrett and Dutch Mantell basically booking TNA, and they were going out and finding all these top guys at all these little smaller promotions around. I mean, they had crossover deals with like 20-something companies around the world at some point.
Right.
And if you are familiar with or read up or heard him talk about it, when Jarrett was first putting together Global Force, that's kind of what he had in mind. It's like, I want to have just a big tent to bring in all these people from all these other different places, and almost like making an all-star show.
Sure.
And this is going to be the place that they can all come together and compete against each other. So that was kind of his vision from the start. But during that window, when they had control of TNA, and it was everybody walking through the tunnel has got this belt over their shoulder from somewhere else. And some of the belts are rather unattractive looking and cheap and whatnot, but that's beside the point. That's just me being a belt nerd. But these guys walk out with these titles, and it's a great look.
Oh, I like that.
I mean, it's a terrific thing.
I think it looks cool when you have multiple belts too at the same time. Yeah.
Right. I mean, and that's the thing. These guys would come on TNA with the belt from their local promotion, and then they would win one of the, I keep saying TNA was Impact by then. It was actually Global Force /
it's hard to keep track of, really.
Yeah. But it was Global Force Wrestling, and the name of the show was Impact at that point. But anyway, so these guys would come in from the local promotion with these belts, and they would win the Impact Global Force title, and then they start walking out with both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were still the champion of their hometown promotion. And I mean, like I said, it's a very good visual. You see people walking out like that. I mean,
it looks legit. And, like I've talked to Bobby about before, in pro boxing, you're really the world champion when you have 3 world titles.
Right.
Yeah. And I get that guys don't carry all 3 necessarily every time they approach the ring, but it's a lot more legit looking when you got a guy like, he is the champion of X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Even my dear friend Jock Sampson runs around with 3 to 5 belts at any given time, and I don't want to legitimize his wrestling career, but it does look good.
Yeah. Does he legitimately own the FTR one now, or?
Well, so he's got a match coming up with Brock's Boulder, and Brock, if he wins, he's going to drop his Art of Grappling title, which was like their new class championship. And he'll take the FTR title if he can beat Jock. Now that's a whole different set of questions, because I know. Look, here's the thing: Jock starts falling behind, he's gonna jam his thumb in this kid's eye. So
we just need to get Casey King, so he can go back and reclaim what's rightfully his.
Well, and that would probably be best. But at this time, he's got the belt. Nobody can get it off of him. And possession's 9/10 of the law.
Yep, exactly.
So as far as I understand it, that makes you champion. So I can kind of see a definite advantage to using a non-contract system, which honestly was something I was hoping we would start seeing more of anyways.
Right.
Because wrestling was a lot cooler back in the day when you might see, Freebird show up on AWA and in Texas all within 3 months of each other, And the WWE has been hoarding talent for 25 or 21 years now.
Right.
where they've just been.
It'll be 22 this spring, actually.
Yeah, they've just been buying it and setting people aside.
Well, no, it'll be 21 this spring.
Yeah, it'll be 21 this year. Yeah.
I was looking at the date instead of the year for some reason.
Yeah. So
and to that end,
mm-hmm.
I mean, to the guys who want to sign an exclusive contract with a major company like WWE, if they have all these other options, they can get their pot sweetened.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like, hey, if you're asking me to leave behind all this, you got to make it worth my while.
Yeah. No, this is very true. It gives you some bargaining ability
mm-hmm.
that you may not have had otherwise. Also, I think there is going to be, look at, there's stuff like GCW, so you got a place for garbage wrestling to go. NWA for guys like us who like that little more smash mouth, old
mm-hmm.
school feel, there's a place
right.
for them to go. There's a lot more options. Now, I realize that these were there. It's just nobody talked about them for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Marquez, he's cooking something. I'm not sure what it is, but he's up to something over there too.
Oh yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah. And this guy's been producing tons of wrestling television for the last 20 years or 15 years. I'm kind of looking forward to this, and I'm interested in this Terminus wrestling because being a technical wrestling fan, I like those little bit stricter rules. It's also easier to make somebody heel when you have rules to be broken.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So, overall, what do you think? I mean, is that a company with stricter rules like that? Is that something you'd be interested in?
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I would actually have to see it first, but most likely.
Yeah.
I mean, it would depend on the presentation.
Oh, well.
Whether or not they try to stay within themselves or they try to do things that they think need to be done simply because that's what the big guys do and whatnot.
Yeah.
And that's one of the great things about the NWA. The NWA, Billy Corgan's like, look, this is the way we're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't like it, that's fine. But we're not going to try to be different than what I envision this should be just to say that we're doing it that way.
Oh, yeah. No, I love the fact that he's just gone like, guys, we're a studio wrestling show. We do studio wrestling the way it was done for 30 years. So just, get over your ideas of other shit. This is
right.
what we're doing. Let's go ahead and we'll transition over to this now. I didn't know how we were going to do this because I wasn't really sure what direction we were going to take the show this week. Bobby and I had a plan of sorts, and then he thought it was one thing we had agreed to, and I thought it was something else. Shawn was, fortunately was able to step in and help me out here, but we did kind of have to ad hoc a show together. And one of the things I wanted to talk about is just what the NWA has going for it these days. So Shawn, since you host a show on it, I'm going to let you kind of preface this and start off the conversation.
Okay. Well, one of the biggest things the NWA has going for it is they've largely been taking their time with things, to kind of go along with the old school studio feel of it. They're also pretty good on a lot of slower burn feuds.
Mm-hmm.
And a little bit of foreshadowing. That's it's almost like a game at this point when something happens. It's like, oh, are they setting up something from down the road? You start looking at it through that lens. So, I mean, again, they're just staying within themselves and doing what they think they're good at. And for the most part, it works. I have to say that Half Bite and I were both rather disappointed in the last pay-per-view for numerous reasons. How it just seemed like things were kind of out of sync for them. But, I mean, it still had its good points.
Right.
And people who have not seen him in the NWA like to poo-poo it and say, you're crazy, you don't know what you're talking about. But Trevor Murdoch as NWA champion has been phenomenal.
I have been a fan since day 2 of Trevor Murdoch in the NWA.
Mm-hmm. I mean, from the build-up to the story they told to getting him the title shot to him winning the title at NWA 73. That entire arc was just beautiful and intriguing, and it really drew you in. And if you followed the story and watched 73 and didn't jump off your couch when he won that title, then you have no pulse.
Yeah. Well, 73 was the first pay-per-view of any kind I'd gotten in forever. And that was a spur of the moment. Literally, it had been running for about 5 minutes when I decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and buy it. And when I was tweeting back and forth with a couple people, and I was just like, I was thinking like this would be, you know, Trevor Murdoch was going to get it tonight, but now, you know, they got the Union Jack on the belt and all this stuff. And then when he comes out wearing the Harley Race jacket, I was like, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. But I mean, as champion, he's been great because he is such an embodiment of what the NWA is trying to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just old school, hard nosed, in your face. He cut a promo last week on Power that I think you saw. I had actually ripped the video and tweeted it. I'm like,
well,
is January 18th too early to call promo of the year?
What is so funny about that is I had just paused. Oh, so I see your tweet. I paused Power. I watched that video. I turned Power back on, and it's going right into that piece. And I was like, oh, okay, there it is. Yeah.
What do you know?
That was a great promo. And I'll tell you what, I was a little worried at the start of his thing because they were leaving him, somebody knock him out and leave him laying at the end of every show there for a while. Mm-hmm. And then I got real disturbed by the fact that they were pushing something with him and Jax Dane. And as he's trying to back Jax Dane out, he was visibly out of wind. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, oh, that is, I mean, whatever is going on, they need to not show that because Jax Dane looks like he could kill a motherfucker who couldn't breathe.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah. And so if you're going to put him against Jax Dane, you cannot have him sucking air that hard. You're going to have to be real careful about what you do. Because if he looks weak even for a second, it's just going to be unbelievable.
Yeah. And I got to say, you know, I've got people who I know who are way more in touch with the indie scene of the past 10, 15 years. But I've got to get back and find some resources, get on YouTube, whatever. I got to see Jax Dane at his peak. If he's bringing what he's bringing now, I need to see what he was like 10 years ago.
Yeah. Have you ever heard the term bad motherfucker?
Of course.
Yeah, if you look that up in the dictionary, there's a good chance to be a picture of Jax Dane looking at you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Jax Dane had his shit together. I've seen him and Tim Storm, and Tim Storm's one of those guys. I wish I could have seen him 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, I saw him in 2014 and didn't know who he was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly had forgotten about it until I pulled the DVD out of the event out and I'm like, oh wait, that's Tim Storm.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen him like not at the beginning of his career, but kind of that midpoint when you're about 35 and you know what you're doing kind of thing, right. You know? Yeah, I would like to have seen more of that. Cause Tim Storm looks like the kind of guy who beats some ass too, you know?
Mm-hmm. But, anyway, going back to the NWA.
Yes.
Their women's division
mm-hmm.
is incredible. And the roster is not that deep. Well, I mean, just numbers wise, it's not huge. But, I mean, the people they have on there are very good. And Camille, people were a little nervous about letting Camille speak. You know, because when she came out, she was just a silent enforcer.
Right.
And people who dug deep enough and actually saw interviews of her when she was playing softball. And she was just the most country sounding, sweetest thing you'd ever want to hear. You know, it's like, if your girlfriend talked that way, it'd be adorable, but you're going to be a major hero if you're going to be a major hero on a wrestling program, then probably not so much. And so people were kind of concerned that, you know, she might not be able to swing it on the mic, but she has been really, really good.
Well,
with the things she has said and how she's saying it, her presence in front of the camera. I mean, it's been a home run for them putting the belt on her.
I imagine during that time where they had her playing silent, they probably were getting her some media. I don't know if you call it media coaching in this situation. They probably have somebody working with her though.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
hey, we gotta tighten this act up a little bit here.
But yeah, she's been really good. Of course, Melina, don't really need to say a whole lot more about her. And right now, the hottest star on the roster, and this is one I keep telling people, we just need to enjoy her while we still have her.
Yeah.
Natalia Markova.
She's going to get snatched up by somebody.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, she is just so good. She's one that she has this presence. Now, she's a very attractive woman.
I hadn't noticed.
I mean, really.
We haven't talked about this before at all.
Yeah, no. I mean, great. Who's noticed her body?
Not me.
I mean, obviously, very attractive woman.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, she's got that going for her. But there's a lot of attractive women on TV.
Right.
But she has an additional presence on top of that. When she just steps in front of the camera and looks into it, you're taken in. And it's not just, hey, this woman's fine as hell. She's got a presence that she just kind of takes over the scene. And she's also very good in the ring.
Yeah.
She's been at it for a while. I mean, this isn't somebody who just decided on a lark, hey, I want to be a pro wrestler. I mean,
no, she's traveled the world as a wrestler. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, when Bobby Blaze is big on your in-ring abilities, that's saying a lot.
I agree. And Bobby told me about her months ago. He saw her at some show they were at.
Right.
And he was like, hey, this girl's going to be on top of shit right here.
Mm-hmm. She is definitely somebody to keep your eye on.
Yeah. Now, one of the things, this is one of those spots that the NWA can be helped out by being open to people who aren't under contract because, they've got, well, look, Mickie James is there and she's the Impact Women's Champion right now.
Right.
This would give them, as long as wherever they're signed, access to people to come in to goose the women's, division a little bit. Because losing Thunder Rosa was a major blow to their women's division.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
But, if they could get, say, Thunder Rosa, Serena Deeb, who I slept on her. I did not realize what an in-ring badass she was.
Right.
She is incredible in the ring. And that match where she lost to Camille, that was wild as shit. Because they let her play an underdog who could still, if I get a hold of your arm or your leg, you're fucked up.
Right.
And that was really cool. So hopefully the NWA can keep their talent they have right now, but occasionally get somebody like a Thunder Rosa or somebody back in there. Mm-hmm. And that will give it, I think, the credibility that it would really just look amazing. Right.
And then you got the junior heavyweight tournament going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, a lot of people were saying, they don't really need another belt for the size of the roster that they have. But at that time, when they announced they were bringing the belt back, they had not yet announced that they're also going to have this additional half-hour show every week.
Right.
And so that worked out pretty well. They can kind of feature the tournament on there, and that can kind of, USA can kind of be the home of the junior weight division, so to speak.
Well, so I'll be interested in seeing where this goes. I kind of want to, hear your opinion on this or see if you think it's doing the same thing I do. That show there, was it NWA USA?
Yes.
That's going to feature the national title.
Yeah.
So I imagine that means the TV title and the world title will not be defended or contested on that show.
Yeah, not regularly, at least.
Yeah, so it's just going to be the national title, and I'm guessing the junior heavyweight.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you think they can hold that many titles as long as you segregate the talent? Also, I do notice that with NWA USA, it looks like they're bringing in other people to kind of fill the roster out, too.
Yes. Yeah, and you kind of saw they were easing into that the last few episodes of Power.
Mm-hmm.
They were bringing these guys in, and then when USA started, they kind of split them off. And you got some pretty good fellas in there. I love Jordan Clearwater.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Jamie Stanley. They're really good. I mean, some people might think their gimmicks are a little cheesy and hokey, but
they're old school gimmicks. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're very good old school gimmicks where they're basically just the smug assholes.
Mm-hmm.
And they play them really well. And so, I mean, I just enjoy seeing them. And, a few other guys like that. You got the Hawks.
They are really good. Now, I don't know where they were at before all this, but as a team,
they were in their promotion.
Oh, okay.
Which is Wildcat out of New Orleans.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I got a little bit of familiarity with them. Luke and Mike Mills are actually pretty tight. They've known each other for a long time.
Okay.
But yeah, I've been to a couple of Wildcat shows, or probably at least 3 at this point over the last few years. But
well,
yeah,
I've definitely heard the name. Obviously in conjunction with booking the territory, because that's where they're at.
Yeah, so Luke is the promoter of that territory there in New Orleans, and his son is part of it. PJ kind of broke onto the scene when he did the stunt when they were doing the mall show, when he jumped off the second story of the mall into the ring, did that high spot, that went viral.
Well, yeah, it is the time that it is,
Yeah. And hey, I don't blame anybody for doing something that gets attention.
Yeah, as long as you don't,
especially in a business like that.
As long as you don't kill yourself or somebody else.
Yeah, and honestly, if you looked at the tape, somebody says, generally, people like you and I, somebody tells you, yeah, this goofball jumped off the second floor of a shopping mall. And then you roll in your eyes. But if you actually watch the film of it that was making the rounds, they actually did a really good job of it.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't your typical suicide dive where everybody's just kind of standing in the ring watching the guy climb up like, gee, what do you think he might be doing?
Yeah.
I don't know. He might be thinking about jumping on us. Oh, do you think? I don't know. And, well,
let's make sure we all stand shoulder to shoulder with our arms slightly raised.
Exactly. But no, they did it really well, where he's kind of, the other 3 guys are occupied beating each other up, and he kind of just sneaks off and climbs up there, and they don't realize he's up there until right before he jumps. It was really well done, I have to say. PJ is another star waiting to happen. He's got a good look. He's got a good personality that comes across the TV. So, he's another one to definitely keep your eyes on.
Yeah, he's a guy. He's got great wrestling fundamentals.
Yeah, well, he is a multiple-time amateur wrestling state champion in high school.
You know what? You remember when all great pro wrestlers were actual wrestlers? You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, you watch those guys in the ring; they're really quite good. And like I said, I didn't know where they were from, so I was kind of interested in that. So I'm glad you had that piece there for me. I did like this thing where they put the father and son against each other in the ring. That was kind of interesting.
Yeah, and Luke swears that was legit. They did a drawing, and that's how it played out. Take that for what you will.
Well, look, I don't ever ask a magician how the trick is done.
Right.
I would have liked to have seen somebody lose their temper and fucking jackjaw somebody with their elbow or something, and then have to kind of cool shit down at the end of the match. But maybe father and son's a little too close to do that.
Yeah.
That would work for tag teams, but maybe not in this case.
Mm-hmm.
They were really good to watch. Let me see who else was on there there was a couple people that really caught my eye. But now, of course, I'm blanking out, so I'm going to let you take over again.
Okay. The tag teams.
Yes.
Are heating up.
Yes.
There was a little while, kind of, as they wound down their last pay-per-view cycle. The tag teams were kind of splitting off and diverging and drying up. And, there was a discussion that Half Pint actually had on our show. It's like, the tag team division's kind of starting to slack off. But they brought in a new crop of guys, including the Hawks ARE, Clearwater, and I can't remember who you partnered with.
Rocket.
But,
yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, Marche Rocket.
Yeah, Marche Rocket. There we go.
Thank you. Yeah, and you got La Rebellion, who's the current tag team champions.
I do like that these companies are like going, well, hey, what can we do to make a tag team look legit? Well, let's get somebody from Mexico because they never quit doing tag team wrestling in Mexico.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're really good. And obviously they got the belts, but they're a lot of fun to watch. And if you watch them, they're AAA guys, they're luchadors.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not, I mean, at least not in the NWA. I mean, they're not just the really high pace, flipping around, stunting type luchadors. I mean, they will actually get in there and start brawling. And I mean, they're really talented guys. They're very versatile. So you got them. They've got the championships right now. You still have Aaron Stevens and Kratos teamed up.
Can I get you to pause right there?
Yes.
I didn't know Aaron Stevens. Like, I guess he was Damian Sandow in WWE. I'm right there, right? That was him. I never saw him in anything before the NWA. And I know people a lot of times don't care for that kind of ham-fisted comedy character. I fucking love this guy. I think he's hilarious.
That type of a gimmick is something that if you can pull it off, it's gold.
Yeah.
But not everybody can pull it off. And he can in spades.
Yeah, he cracks me up. I loved him with the question mark. He's going to be sorely missed, or is already.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever saw it. There was a night me and question mark were tweeting back and forth, and I acted like it was a conversation, and he just kept tweeting rows of question marks.
I think I saw parts of that. I'll have to go back and see.
Yeah, where I was responding like he was actually saying things, and it went on for like a good hour and a half,
That's great.
Yeah. But I thought Aaron Stevens, when he was with him, I thought that was gold. I thought they were great.
Yes, absolutely.
With Kratos, I hadn't seen a whole lot before 73, and them doing their fake bits at the beginning where it was like, oh, hey, this is 1969 or what. That was funny. And I was like, that Kratos, for such a sour-faced dude, is actually pretty fucking funny.
Right.
And those two together, Aaron Stevens almost a feat in the way he does that character. And then Kratos just looks like a fucking fire plug who's going to rip you in half.
Mm-hmm.
It is just so damn funny to me. Yeah, I love it. I have to say that.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, it's one of those things that if you can pull it off, it's gold.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the talent or the natural charisma to pull it off, then it just looks goofy.
I will give you that for sure. Okay, so you got the women's division, you got Trevor Murdoch as champion, you got the tag team divisions, and I heard some chatter that Billy Corgan's wanting to go to more 6-man matches. Yeah,
they keep kind of hinting at that.
Yeah, which is kind of weird that they're hinting at it but not doing it.
Yeah. May Valentine reporting the backstage rumors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I hear people talking about, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, and some of that's, kind of the factions that you have together. You got the Church's Money and Austin Idol Entertainment. They've got 3 active wrestlers between Tyrus and Clearwater and Rocket now.
And Tyrus was carrying around a 6-man tag belt for some damn reason or another.
Yeah, well, supposedly that was Idol's belt that he, when Pope had the TV title,
mm-hmm.
he actually had his own TV title that was on white leather. And then when Tyrus won it, supposedly the story was Austin Idol had his 6-man title and melted it down and recasted it as Tyrus's new TV title.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's what their story they were telling on 73 there. And who knows, maybe that was a long-term foreshadowing there.
Yeah, that's what I was just starting to wonder about, because they've got a great team. Now, see, Jordan Clearwater, he wrestled in the Hollywood show here in California several times, and so I was familiar with him. And then William Harding, the Sugar Hole champ, is familiar with him because I guess he's from somewhere near where William's at.
Okay.
So I was fairly familiar with him. Now, he was pushed as a face in California. I like him much better as a heel than I do a face.
Yeah, I have a hard time imagining him
as a
face. because he's so good as the heel.
Yeah.
Like I said, just the smug prick, He's just really good at it.
And that stupid ass haircut.
The neon yellow jacket.
Yeah. He's pretty good. Yeah. So do you think they're going to get a 6-man title? Do you think that's where they're headed?
I don't know. I don't know if maybe that's just something they got kind of on the back burner that, if the opportunity presents, we'll run with it. But I don't know. I'd rather get the regular tags a little bit more established first.
Yeah.
Personally. But it's not my money, so who knows?
Well, they'll do what they want, I guess. But what do you think of Ricky Morton's kid?
He's good. He's good. He's still got a little bit more work to do on the mic. Because, there's nothing wrong with his promos, but he's almost a little too regular carry. And he hadn't quite hit that switch to where you take yourself and turn it up to 11. Mm-hmm. That's your gimmick. He's still kind of hanging around 7 or 8, which is fine for now. But, of course, he's really good in the ring. No surprise there.
And he's going to be sympathetic, too. You kind of see that, he's definitely watched his dad and how to get the crowd behind you and stuff.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I'm saying about his promos. Right now, he's just a little bit too aw shucks. He hadn't really cranked it up yet. But he'll get there.
He looks young. I don't know how old he actually is, but he looks really young.
Yeah, he's still in college.
Yeah. Okay, so he could be 20 because that's what I was thinking looking at him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like seeing. Well, I'll tell you what. I'd much rather see his kid wrestling than him these days. It hurts me to see people that age trying to. No, look, I get it, but God damn it, somebody could literally fall and break a hip, and that scares stuff like that. Just scares the hell out of me,
Yeah, I don't know. The thing is, you got to realize. He's not a normal person of that age. He's been doing this crap every
forever,
night for the past 40 years. His body's built to take the load.
Yeah, it just stuff like that frightens me.
As Mike always says, Father Time is undefeated. Though at some point you got to hang it up.
Yep.
I'm not looking forward to that day by any means, but
yeah, I don't know. It's getting close to 50. Shit ain't for the weak of heart. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. I think you're kind of feeling what I'm feeling in that department. Oh, all right. So overall, since its return from the COVID break, what are your feelings about the NWA?
It's been a little hit or miss, but overall, I've enjoyed it. I think they're doing a good job. Again, they're staying within themselves. They're not trying to do a lot of stuff just for the sake of saying they're doing it. And matter of fact, I'm going to that end. At the end of their last pay-per-view, shortly after all these WWE releases that happened, and ROH had said they were going to be suspending operations for a few months. And Half Pint had actually counted out the days. He's like, this next pay-per-view is going to be a few days after most of these guys' non-compete clauses are going to expire. And all leading up to the pay-per-view and even through it, they're hinting, you don't know who might turn up. NWA is full of surprises. And so NWA fans are sitting in front of their TVs going, man, who's going to show up? This could be good. And of course, me personally, I want the Briscoes and NWA so damn bad. I can feel it. You and Bobby talked about that just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I could not agree more. If there's anybody who is built to be in the NWA, it's the Briscoes. With their promo talent and their look and their demeanor, everything about them just says NWA.
Yeah, and I feel like AEW is just not a good long-term fit for them.
Well, I'll say this much.
Mm-hmm.
In 2018, I think it was the last time WrestleMania was in New Orleans. And I went to the Supercard of Honor that weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when the Young Bucks ran Ring of Honor. So you had all the Omega, and actually I don't know if Omega was there yet, but there was a whole bunch of younger people who were these huge Young Bucks fans and kind of the people in their orbit. And you could tell that was who they showed up to see. You went to the pre-show meet and greets. And I mean, the line for the Young Bucks was like around the concourse. And my buddy and I, we went over and talked to, God, he's one of my favorite guys. The Motor City Machine Guns. Chris Sabin and...
Oh, I can never remember the other guy's name.
God, he's Fake Kincaid on Twitter. I can remember his Twitter handle. I can't remember his real name. I'm blanking out right now.
Well, because, you know, every time I think of them, all I hear is Hail Sabin, and that gets stuck in my head, and I can't remember the other guy.
So anyway, we go over and talk to those two guys, because I'm a big fan of both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, back when they were when it was TNA, and they were doing the paparazzi gimmick. So we go over and talk to them, and you could just see the look on their face, how dejected they were. It's like, we're sitting here, and like, you're the first people to come over and talk to us in 10 minutes. Meanwhile, these other doofuses got people, you know, the line going around the block. I mean, I felt bad for them, I really did. But my point being, I'm going around the world across the street, as Bobby likes to say. At the show that night, the Briscoes had a match with somebody. And that Young Bucks crowd was basically falling asleep during their match. I mean, the people who were sitting behind me were just, God, I can't wait for this to be over. I mean, literally just voicing their displeasure at the match that they were having. And I'm sitting, of course, I'm watching, I'm thinking this is the highlight of the night. And these other people are just bored to tears. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, they'll go to AEW and they'll have that match with FTR. Is it? Am I saying their name right?
Yes. Yes, you are.
And, you know, it'll pop. But I don't know how much staying power they'll have in AEW just in terms of fit.
Well, I just don't feel like they fit in. First off, my number one concern is you get that woke crowd. And look, the AEW fans, a lot of them are younger and they're a little more into this whole fucking hippy dippy bullshit. And look, I won't even own like a Leonard Skinner t-shirt anymore because I just don't want anything with the Confederate flag on it, you know? Uh-huh. And I'm not the guy who's going to stand up and like, you know, burn down all the Confederate flag, blah, 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 you know, but the AEW kids might be. And you go back just a few years with the Briscoes and everything is covered in the stars and bars. And
which is odd for a pair of guys from Connecticut.
No, that's not all that odd. It's, you know, look, they're developing a character, you know, tons of wrestlers who are from the North.
I think I just dropped the wrong state name anyway.
Yeah, you probably did. But I mean, lots of carpetbaggers out there is what I'm getting at, you know? Yeah.
No, there's rednecks everywhere.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah. Look, there's a lot of guys, I mean, you know, a lot of guys here in California who used to fly the Confederate flag, and look, California was as far from the Civil War as you could get.
Right.
And, you know, even though like the idea would have been that it could have been a slave state, everybody over here in California was like, no, thank you. Stay out of here with that bullshit.
Right.
You know, so that's the thing I worry about. Now, I'm not saying that couldn't bite him on the ass in the NWA. Just ask Jim Cornette about accidental ass biting. But I think they fit in a lot better. I think you get them in that crowd. I don't think there's the potential for that coming back to bite them is there.
Right.
Also, I think the potential fans would go heavily towards those guys just because they're that, you know, that roughneck, toothless fucking hillbilly fighter kind of guy.
Right. Who can talk shit like nobody's business.
All sorts of shit talk. And I think the NWA crowd would eat that up.
Absolutely. So anyway, of course, we're hoping, okay, that would be our lottery win, would be for the Briscoes to show up at the end of this pay-per-view.
Yes.
And instead, we get Matt fucking Cardona, who was most recently seen in a hardcore match in GCW with Nick Gage, tweeting pictures of his hotel bed sheets that were full of blood the next morning. And we're just like, this is getting underwear for Christmas. All right. But, and this is a big but, it's been fantastic. Because somebody, whoever's behind the booking of this, knows that us NWA fans, that was going to be our reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And they have leaned into it. And so now the gimmick is Cardona's coming in to save the NWA with all of his newfangled ideas and modern mid-show crap. And so now you have this natural heel persona bubbling up. And it's, I mean, they're only about 3 weeks a month into it, but it's actually pretty damn good.
So
and you're just waiting for somebody to just knock the grin off of his smarmy little face.
Yeah. So
say, go back to your Outlaw Mud show.
I'm just kind of getting back into the NWA. They just cleared everything up. They're putting their shows back on YouTube. I guess it'll be second run a few days after they release. Mm-hmm. And your original $4.99 a month for access to Power and a few other things. Now that money is going to go, and you've got full access through Fight to everything the NWA is going to do for the year.
Yeah, I mean, that you show me a better deal.
There isn't one. There isn't one.
Than $50 for everything the NWA puts out, pay-per-views included.
Yeah, there's just not a better deal out there. I don't know what else they're going to do, but something tells me there'll be more than what they've announced already as well. Mm-hmm. So they've got that coming. So I kind of hadn't been so into the NWA. Even after I paid for the shows, I just kind of wasn't watching them.
Right. Yeah, I did the same thing with New Japan. I had a New Japan World subscription.
Yeah.
And before I had a child, I could keep up. Because you got to understand, on New Japan World, they don't have like a 1 hour show. You know, basically it's just streaming all of their house shows.
Gotcha.
So it's like everything they drop is 3 hours long.
Yeah.
And you got to kind of pick and choose what you want to watch sometimes. And of course you get the pay-per-views and all that, but hell, now Wrestle Kingdom's freaking 2 days long.
Right.
But it just got to the point after I had my child in 2016, I just didn't have time to watch it all. And I probably for a year, I kept paying that subscription. I wasn't watching anything. And finally I came to my senses and said, I'm just wasting money here.
Right.
As much as I like it when I can see it, I'm not watching it anymore. So why am I paying for this? So you were in the same boat when you first signed up to NWA. And
right. So now that it's hitting YouTube again, I'm kind of getting back in. Matter of fact, Friday night, while I was doing other stuff, but I let like 4 or 5 shows play, and it was a mix of Power and USA. And I was getting into it, so I saw the Matt Cardona stuff, and you're right. You want to just you want somebody to slap the shit out of him. And he's kind of got Xbox heat, or not Xbox heat, as they used to call it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's enough to get you enough hatred to actually make it an interesting story, as long as there is a good payoff.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's when he shows up, you think this is just going to be go away heat. Mm-hmm. We're not going to be interested in this guy. He doesn't belong here. We're just going to want him to go away. But like I said, whoever's booking it had sense enough to realize that was going to be the fans' thought process and reaction. And okay, we're going to run with that. Yeah. That's going to be his role. Is to be this dickhead that we all just want to go away.
Yeah, and the little bit I saw of him, that's what I was feeling. And you're right, and that was that Trevor Murdoch bit. So yeah, somebody's handling that right. I don't know who's doing their writing and production right now, or their layouts for matches, but somebody is on top of their game.
Right.
Yeah. The one good thing I can say about Matt Cardona, Chelsea Green.
Yeah, that's what I knew you were going to go there.
Yeah, that's the one good thing I could say. And somebody, if they had their shit together, could probably make their own, Dr. Baker out of her if they wanted to.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
All right. So Shawn, we are running out of time here. How would you like to summarize and wrap up on the NWA?
You need to tune in and see what they're doing. It's good stuff, especially if you were an old school type wrestling fan, the kind of person who this podcast is in their wheelhouse. You're going to enjoy the NWA and what they're doing.
I would agree. Well, so again, if somebody wants to find you on social media, is there any place they can find you?
I am at Sparks Third Coast on Twitter.
All right. And your podcast is called?
The NWA Cast. And again, that is found on the Booking the Territory Patreon feed.
Excellent. All right, Shawn.
How sad is that somebody has me behind a paywall?
Hey, look, it's what they say is, like, if you're good at something, don't do it for free, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, with all that
Yeah,
said,
I'm making all these rounds. I'm going to have to ask for a raise from Mike.
he'll double what he's paying you now, I'm sure.
Oh, he'll probably offer to triple it.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, Shawn, thank you for joining us. I do appreciate that you could come on.
Thank you for having me. Glad to fill in.
Yeah, keep me company for a little bit while we talk about the NWA. So everybody out there, for the late Tex Johnson, myself, Professor Jeremy Vilmer, and our fill-in official, semi-official guest host, Shawn Sparks. Bye-bye, everybody.